People will buy into change and buy into innovation faster when they see their role in that outcome and they have a voice and they contribute to it.
Welcome to Unexpected Journey, the show where each week top professionals share work wisdom and life lessons about their careers and what they have learned about human experience in the workplace. I'm your host, Ann Bibb. Today we're joined by Paula Kennedy, an industry leader with a 25-year career in customer experience. She's currently serving as the Executive Vice President of Innovation and Product Strategy at InTouch CX. Paula has been recognized for her transformative contributions to the field, including the 2022 Innovator of the Year Golden Bridge winner and the 2022 Stevie's Innovation Woman of the Year for Industry Awards. Beyond her professional achievements, Paula is a passionate advocate for women in leadership, mentorship, and diversity programs, as showcased by her involvement as a founding member of the UK's Chief Network for Executive Women in Business. Before we begin, don't forget to subscribe and leave your comments below. Now let's get started. Welcome, Paula.
Thank you for having me. Delighted to be here.
I am so excited that we get to spend this time together because you have all of this CX background and you are not just a well-respected CX evangelist, but you are a respected evangelist for women in leadership in the business at the international level, not just, in Ireland or in EMEA, but around the world. And that is such a great thing to hear and to see. So I am excited to talk to you about that. But I would love to hear about how you ended up where you are today, because this is, unexpected journey. We're all about how did you get to where you are today? And I know that you didn't, wake up in the kindergarten, in preschool, and say, I want to be an EVP at an outsourcing organization. How did you get here?
I don't think we even ever say I want to be in a contact center. Let's face it and
Right?
call a spade, right? It's not an industry that we navigate into. But I think I am like so many that just happened to be starting out in my career at the time that this industry was taking off. And I'm here for that. That's not a bad thing to happen. I had a degree in languages. I was trying to figure out what to do next, and I fell into contact centers just trying to make some money as I decided where I wanted to travel to next and what I was going to do with this big degree. And so it was very serendipitous to be in an industry that was just starting to absolutely reshape what customer experience would be, never mind what it would become. So, and with that, it meant that you had many doors open, huge doors to kind of take your career in a direction that you probably even hadn't thought about. And I reflect a lot on that now, and because I think we're in a similar position for lots of new people coming through the ranks into this industry and how it's changing with technology. There is a future we have yet to define, right? And so these new doors are constantly opening for the next generation of leaders. And that happened for me. I worked in the operational sphere of contact centers for so long, but I am ridiculously curious. So I was interested in, well, hang on a second, how does that work? What makes this happen? How can it be better? And that allowed me to move around the industry into account management, professional services, a little bit technology, sales. And so I have actually very intentionally over the years built up that generalist portfolio, which in sometimes was looked on a little bit negatively. Don't be a generalist, be very specific, have a skill set. And I argue against that. I think without having intentionally done that in my career, I would not have the ability to sit in an innovation role today and connect the dots and ask the questions, right? So to me, that's served me well.
It's interesting that you say that because you're right. Being a generalist in the past was like a dirty word.
Mm-hmm.
You needed a specialist. You needed a very direct skill and you needed it honed and you needed to stay in your lane.
Yeah.
But now, it very similarly, you and I have a wide range of skills. We are generalists. Yes, we are CX experts. I'm a remote work expert. because I've honed very tight skills in those areas. However, I also have worked in operations and workforce and other areas very similar to you. So
Yeah.
generally can pull in skills from those areas and can get it to a certain point before having to pull in certain others to help.
That's it.
And
And I mean, and the further you go in leadership, you effectively surround yourselves with teams who have lots of experts. There will always be specialists and experts there, and they will be really brilliant at what they do in their swim lane. What I think I can bring to the table is to have those awkward moments and questions where we go, is that good enough? Let's not accept mediocrity. How can we be great, not just good? And how can we, I guess my job is to look around corners as well and start to think what else is happening out there and can we make it relevant to the CX industry? And that's a really privileged and exciting position to be in. So here I am, never had an intention of getting into this industry, and I love it. Right. And I can now attest to all of those other women who are out there that there is such a great future that you can carve for yourself. And I always say your North Star will find you. The thing that you love most will get you through this journey. And I think this industry opens up more doors than I think maybe other specific industries might do.
you know, let's talk about moving up into leadership in the CX space.
Yes.
You've kind of called out, looking around corners, finding those gaps, and then also having a team around you that knows more than you do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
How important is that? I mean, you don't know everything.
No.
Are you
I
expected as a leader to know everything?
I think you're expected as a leader to absolutely give the direction where things are going, but also to recognize if it isn't going to plan, to pivot and go in that different direction. That's knowing everything in a slightly different way, right? What I want to do with my team is surround myself with, and even every tiny project I work at in innovation or a larger project, it'll start with some size of a tiger team, which is fairly diverse in its skill sets.
Mhm.
Experience will come, right? But that expertise is slightly different. And so I want to be surrounded by people who can action on the vision that we have. But I want us to be diverse enough that we challenge each other and we ask the questions, because that's the only way we can kind of go from a standard to a new status quo and really challenge what there is there. So I think it's really important. I don't think I need to have all of the answers, but I do need to have a collective of people who together we know all of the answers, but who will also challenge each other. And it's the very premise of what I've been doing and building InTouch Next within InTouch CX, this kind of innovation arm and program that we're doing, is to have that collective of innovators and technologists and researchers and new thinkers all together, that whatever business challenge we're going to take on, I can pull down and draw down on the expertise that's needed to make that the best version that it's going to be.
Can you give an example of when you did just that, right? You pulled in your collective. You didn't necessarily know everything, but you were able to pull the team together from that, whether it was an innovation or what have you, some sort of example to explain to our listeners how that actually worked and came to fruition.
Yeah, I mean, I want to say it
I'm sure
happens
you have
every
millions, and now I'm sitting here going, can you
millions.
just pick
What's the
one?
one that there's one right now that I'm working on, which I think is fantastic. We're looking at where is this industry headed with this big term of AI and generative AI and things that are happening. And
Oh, that's an
and
excellent one. Yeah.
oh, there's on one side there's lots of noise and hype around very exciting products that are happening. On another side, there's concern about, are we going to cannibalize the industry that we work in? And in the middle, I think I'm here thinking, actually, we are at a really great opportunity. We're at the bleeding edge of AI augmented customer support. We can rebuild CX for the better. We can embrace this change because it's going to happen with us or without us, right? And we can embrace this change and we can start to think about how we design process differently, product differently. What will the role of our agents look like in the future? How do we upskill and level the entire business up this level? So we're right in that at the moment where I'm working with, some of the InTouch Next collective of technology partners that I have, some of the incredible brains and visionaries within our business, and we're all building out what this new future looks like. That's super, super exciting to be right on the edge of shaping what will come next. And I think as I look over past years and things that I've done, it's always been, what is that innovative new solution? What that thing is that's emerging that tomorrow might be mainstream, but we're at the start of the adoption. And right now, this industry is at a super exciting time.
How do you feel like AI, speaking of AI, you brought up AI, which is like one of my big passions right now, is how AI is going to impact not just, outsourcing and call centers, but a lot of the repetitive work that is going into businesses right now. There's some people are scared. They're falling into kind of one of two categories right now, right? They're either
Yeah.
super excited or they're very scared. I fall into the excited category because I feel like it's going to take off the repeatable, easy processes from a lot of the work in order to allow the humans to come in and put in the thought that is needed, right? Like let AI and the computers take that easy, repeatable stuff off so that we can use our brains to put in the human piece in.
Yeah,
Where
the
do you feel
empathy,
like
the
this is going
feeling.
to come in? Yes, exactly. Where do you feel like this is going to come into play in outsourcing or even contact centers in general?
You know, the absolute premise behind what I'm leading in Touch Next, we talk about we're leading from the future to revolutionize experiences. This is going to revolutionize experiences for sure. But I think there's always three big questions that I ask as we look at these big waves that are coming through, because we've got to consider the needs of our clients, our employees, the business, so that we can all thrive in this changing industry that we have moving forward. So the first thing that I will ask is, what's influencing the future? The big bucket items that cause the noise. So, here we go with what's radically already made massive changes since just November with ChatGPT. And often that means polarized opinion, which you've just talked about. Often that means fear. But we want to look at those trends and really determine, will they have relevance for our space now, or is it longer term? And we pull down on the ones that we feel will have that. And then we've got to think about more so, well, what's the future? What's actually going on in the world? And how does that wave impact with everything else? Socioeconomic changes, what's happening geographically? What else is going on in the industry that clients are asking for? And that has to have a lens of the next 12 to 24 months so we can start to prioritize these things. That, Anne, allows us to think about the here and now. What's our future, ours in the CX space? And we can get a little bit more strategic around how we create products and solutions that will service all of those needs. So if you think of that kind of funnel downwards with we are with generative AI, we're already rapidly at the stage where we're thinking, how will the product work within our world? What impact has it on CX? What impact does it have on our employee experiences? Is the technology and hype possibly moving faster than what clients are prepared for change? Because change takes time and you don't embed those things in. So I think in the short term, we have this wonderful human machine relationship. It's a big theme that we have as Blue Sky within In Touch Next, which is, and it goes beyond just CX. How does that relationship between human machine change as we start to evolve our own industry? And we see very much at the minute this whole AI piece for CX critically needing that human in the loop at this stage for those reasons you've just talked about. Then hand holding, the white glove treatment with our clients to help them get ready for it, the human in the loop being able to navigate and make changes and teach the AI to be specialist to every brand so that you're not losing that brand tone and voice as you start to roll these technologies into the mainstream that we will see very, very soon.
I think that is very well said. Now, one of the things that you mentioned earlier was that you actually originally went to school for languages.
I did.
And that ties into me to communication.
Yes.
And how does InTouch CX approach language equity
Oh, good question.
and ensure effective communication?
Well, language was a thing where for many years we assumed that we all just needed to converse in English and the internet was in English and everything happens in English. And I'm not saying that that isn't still the majority of the case, but I think as we are more and more accessible 24/7 with this digital lifestyle that we all lead, it
Mhm.
is very remiss of any brand not to consider the importance of what language really means. And
Well, and y'all provide translation services as well, right?
translation services, which is part of it, because I'm like you, if you study languages, language accessibility and language equity is just really close to your heart. You understand the importance, what it means to culture, right? So I've had that
Oh
close
my
to my
God,
heart for a
so
number of
much.
years. It's so, so important. So I've had this, I guess, this calling to make sure language was always front and center. Um, Translation is a component of that. I've worked with translation partners for a number of years. Our In Touch Next collective includes some of those, and it means that we can help brands truly deliver globalization, right? So if you are going to reach out and have countries around the world, do not switch your language off at 5 p.m. because you've no one available. Do not only make it available, not at weekends when people may be wanting to get in contact with you. Don't only put it into one channel and not the other. So it means you have to start getting very creative and innovative with the solutions that you do for language. And that's because, I mean, at the end of the day, it is costly to run a multilingual operation for every language in the world. And it's costly to do that 24/7. And you've got different socioeconomic impacts, which make it even just operationally difficult, which is a longer lead time to hire, which is a higher premium to pay for those services. So I also get the business side of it, but technology means we don't have to focus only on that any longer. So things that we have in play are um, translation, of course, video transcription service, speech to text. So there's so much more that's happening in the language space that enables and unlocks that ability to make language much more equitable and accessible for everybody. And it is a million times more than it was even 6 years ago when it started to come out into the surface. So
Even a
it's,
year ago,
yeah,
even a
it's not
year
just
ago, it's
status quo. Yeah.
moving so quickly.
Mhm.
Technology, it's so interesting to watch since the pandemic started. It's like it was moving, right? But the pandemic just kind of almost put like gasoline on the speed of technology, and it hasn't slowed down since then.
But I also think organizations in general become much more open to where technology could help. And once you light
Absolutely.
that torch paper, you can't blow it out and ignore it. You can't go back to the previous ways, right?
You
And then
can't put out torch paper.
no,
It's not possible.
you wouldn't. There's things that cannot be unseen, but also, the mix, the rising buyers, the consumer market is changing demographically, and we have much more digital native decision makers in the mix, and they want things done in a different way, and they demand that as part of brand. So I think these things they very quickly have become the status quo and mainstream, and now it's about keeping up with it. So it's no longer just about a translation capability. It is about having transcription, live voice interactions, and there's such very exciting tools coming through very quickly that will be even raising the bar further on that.
So we did mention about culture, and I wanted to kind of touch on that a little bit,
Yeah.
mainly because there's two aspects of this that I want to ask you about. One is, how do you, when you lead the product and innovation team, how do you really foster culture with innovation together?
God, I think I'm really lucky that I have a very captive audience at InTouch CX when it comes to innovation. But I don't think, can any organization in this space exist and thrive today without a culture of innovation? I would say not. But it doesn't necessarily mean it exists everywhere. As I say, I'm very blessed. We have this entrepreneurial DNA at InTouch CX, and I think as I met Greg and the team when they were speaking to me for joining the organization, I could just see how we had those synergies, right? So for me, I was in the business because bear in mind, I joined InTouch CX last June, right?
Gosh, I
So
thought you had been there longer. It just feels like you
indeed, I've
joined
been there
so
for
long ago.
years, and that's my
Yeah.
point. I mean, within weeks, it felt I was in there months already. It was, and this was me, working in Ireland, and a lot of the team being distributed around the world. So it was a really nice, natural slot in for me, and they embraced this really insane curiosity that I have. So the energy and passion I have is great, but don't get me wrong. And I know my flaws. I know when that can be too fast. I know when to pull it back. So the crazy Irish lady coming into the business with great ideas and let's do this. You also to be successful with innovation and create a culture of innovation, you have to do it in a very purposeful way. You have to bring people along on the journey with you. Change is a scary thing, right? And a lot of what happens in my world, particularly if you think about, I deal with all of the blue sky innovation. It's taking concepts that don't necessarily have a solution, and they maybe don't have a case study and all the things, because we love to measure. We measure everything in our business and we like to touch things and feel it. And I have to start at that very top, kind of those three questions, those kind of big three questions and statements I mentioned to you earlier, and drill down and distill what the big ideas are into something which is meaningful and tangible for the business. So, but you have to also get people excited about those big concepts and see where it's headed. So it's really important that you have a vision at that blue sky side, and you can let the organization and teams at multiple levels in the business understand the role they play in all of it, right? So the principles become really clear about clarity and creating, goals and communicating. We've talked about that a few times on this discussion today. Communication is so, so key. But within the business, that piece only works part of the way. The other side of my job is solving problems, bringing new solutions to old problems. And when you're doing that, then that means that you actually are, I'm a member of the rest of the team. I'll lead with blue sky, but they come to me when they need something to fix problems in a different way so we can constantly innovate. And I'm really, really blessed and in Touch CX because it means that I become a component of what is the grassroots innovation that's happening from our operational teams. And we do that beautifully with business hackathons. Our teams are constantly looking at what's going on, whether it's client facing or customer facing or just within their own teams and processes. And so when they get together and say, we think these areas have got opportunity, then we can begin and riff that together and we can just create this incredible energy where we think about, again, these kind of new ideas to older problems and bring in new technology and introduce them to exciting new things that they've not had access to before. And so all of a sudden we have all sides of the business working together. But you need to do that in a timely way. You create teams that have that diverse input, and you make them part of the solution so they all feel part of the same goal and create those very clear objectives as you go along that way. It's super exciting.
So with this team and what y'all are doing, you have to collaborate a lot.
Huge. Yeah. It can't be an army of one. I think you only really, you'll when you fuse it into a culture, you can only but reap rewards, but no one person can deliver it on their own. And I think if you look back at like the most successful and fastest growing organizations over the last 20, 25 years, they all share that common trait. There's that product culture. They've reimagined how we live, how we work, how we play, right? How we engage. And I think when you can build that and kind of start creating that new normal and people see something new and how they can work, it lets us think differently about all of that within our own environment as well. So it requires that collaboration. And that's really good. We're working on a super exciting project at the minute called Super Punch Care. And we have this great agent kind of desktop go-to single solution for all of the things that an agent needs to do throughout their job. And they've got a difficult job. And what we've done is we've said we need to bring some empathy and emotion and care and pastorship into this as well. And Super Punch Care is digitizing agent well-being and thinking about that kind of Gen Z population that we have. And we have now put AI-enabled recommendations for people's well-being, which are hyper-personalized to them. So if I'm typing with my team leader and there is maybe I'm saying, oh, you know what, Anne, today that was just a really tough meeting that we had, and I was to do a presentation and it wasn't done correctly, and I don't feel like I delivered my best self. The technology that we've designed is reading those little triggers or indicators of stress. And so it's pinging me going, hey, Paula, doesn't look like you had a great day today. How are you feeling? And so now I have an AI assistant that I can talk with and I can say, I'm really overwhelmed or I feel okay. And it takes me down this beautiful pathway to navigate of lifestyle resources, EAP support. We have insight timer meditation. We have lots of different solutions in there that allows me for my needs, which will be different to yours or different to Bob's or different to Paul's. My needs take me down to a pathway of a resource that I can use to help me to feel better in that day. So that all comes through part of collaboration. And our MVP of that, again, had week over week, all of our MVP users, tell me what you think. What did you use? What were the resources like? And so ground up, we get all of that collaboration. And we've created this amazing tool which has got our people and AI right at the core of it. And that comes back to everything that we have as the heart of a company.
Now, none of these people that are collaborating are in the same location, are they?
Yeah, but they don't need to be. Again, when you've I mean, it's lovely when you're in a room. I'm not going to dismiss that. It is great. There's no one who loves being in a room with a marker and a whiteboard more than me. Try taking it off me. Like, I'll take you down for it. It's like the rugby tackle. So there's no one
You're
loves
that
that more than me.
person. You're
I'm the
that
one with
person
the
at
pen.
retreats that jumps and says, "I'll do it."
I'll do the notes. I love a pen. But, I have worked 10 or 12 years remotely. And I have, the power of this collective voice of expertise being distributed in different places. There is tons of collaboration tools online that help you do that. And so we're incredibly successful with innovation and building this entire new movement within the company. And the team is distributed. The team is not just distributed around the world, but my collective of technologists and disruptors are also distributed around the world. So you use technology. God forbid if I'm an innovator who can't use technology to innovate, there's something wrong. But there's all of those tools for us to do. And yes, it doesn't take away from the ability to have people in the room, but you can also have it in a hybrid way. Have your champion who gets other people in the room to do the hackathon thinking and the changes, and you be a collaborator from the outside. So you work around it and you can get really, really great results. But you get those results because you involve people and you give people a voice. And that's really important. People will buy into change and buy into innovation faster when they see their role in that outcome and they have a voice and they contribute to it.
So, for that listener that is watching right now,
Mhm.
and they have not been able to influence the right people in the organization, they're struggling. They have a great idea, they believe that it's data driven, but they haven't been able to get the right executive sponsors on board.
Mhm.
What is your advice? Talk to that person directly right
Yeah.
now. What is your advice as to how to influence the executive stakeholders to get them on board for their project?
I think, so I would say, first of all, that don't think that the guiding principles of getting people on board are any different if you're doing big blue sky thinking, like how do we build AI into the future of call centers, to how do I improve handle time for a client, right? The grassroots and the blue sky still work on the same guiding principles. And it is important to put the legwork in up front to really frame what your thinking is. Don't go in with a concept that's so woolly that people can't follow. It's important to document. There's a couple of three things that I would say are probably really key. Look at yourself hard in the mirror, first of all, and make sure that what you're wanting to do in your project is meaningful. Make it meaningful to make it matter. When everybody in the business understands the problems that your change or your new innovation or your project are going to solve and the people that it will help, it's much easier to visualize it and align other people on that journey and on those goals. So it has to have a purpose and it has to be meaningful, and to make that message really clear and then bring it to life. I talk a lot about having these great ideas that are inside maybe my head, the head of one person, and letting it be in the hearts and minds of everybody else. It's that piece about building up the excitement and the curiosity. So if you can get understanding with the teams who are responsible for taking your idea into execution, because you're just the first person to think, someone else has to deliver, and then someone has to scale, which needs buy-in. You can use that with storyboards and slides and workflows and building this simple prototype so that people can really visualize that end product. Because when they can feel like they can touch and feel something, it tends to be a lot easier to truly understand. And then I just think simplify the language. We use a lot of terminology and jargon in our industry, right? But turn the language of your product into value. What's the value? What does it mean to me? So what? The impact that the innovation will result in. Again, a lot of the time, because we measure so much in this industry, we like to know that it's going to have a positive outcome, and make sure that value links back to the North Star of the business. Because if you can connect the dots there, then there's a much clearer understanding of the impact that it's going to have. And if you set then some clear objectives, which will change at various stages of that journey of the innovation happening, then you can prove out success very early and adjust your objectives and your KPIs perhaps, and prove out a different level of success. But The one big thing that I would say you can't do without is feedback. I always talk about feedback is our superpower when we're innovating, so that you do get that 360 input from, is it hitting your objectives? Are you happy with what we're doing? And as the end user, be that a customer or be that, say, an agent on the front line, have they been included in that feedback loop? Because if it doesn't work for them, it's not ready yet, right? So that's why we do MVPs. That's why we do prototyping.
Paula, if somebody wanted to get in touch with you, one, why would they get in touch with you? And two, how would they get in touch with you?
I thought you were going to say, why would they want to get in touch with you? Why would they
why would
Well, why
anybody want
not,
to talk to you, Paula?
Why not? Exactly. Listen, the easiest route to get in touch with me is LinkedIn. I'm a big LinkedIn user and I have a wonderful network that I'm very privileged with.
Yep.
So I would
Her
say
link is right there, like right
LinkedIn for sure.
here.
Yes. And I'm available, like just, pop me a message and I'm always reachable for
She
anything where I may be
scarily
able to help.
responds fast, just so y'all all know, like scarily. I think she never turns it off.
That's time zone. Time zone to your advantage. I'm in the UK side, don't forget.
There you go. There you go. And for what reasons would you encourage people to reach out to you?
Do you know, I think we should not ever, ever, ever underestimate the power of networks. Network is just fantastic. Networks are great because you build your network and knowledge through the tribe that you have around you. And in today's world where we are distributed around the world, why should I be limited to what there is within Belfast or Northern Ireland? My network is global. It has helped me grow my career and it's helped me be smarter and better at my job and a better leader. So for that reason, and I would say, get in touch with me because you can teach me something. Connections are two-way things. You might have a question for me, but I can guarantee you 20-minute conversation, half an hour conversation, I will walk away with as much as someone who has come to me. So I think networks are fantastic and we absolutely should not underestimate the power that they have to build our personal brand, to extend our knowledge and just who knows where you're going to be in the world where you can reach out for a coffee of someone you've met randomly through a social media channel. Embrace it.
I love that. Absolutely. Thank you so much for joining us this week, Paula. Truly enjoyed our conversation.
I've had a great time speaking with you. Went really, really quickly. And thank you so much. Been delighted to join with you.
And thank you, everybody, for joining us this week on Unexpected Journey. We will see you again next week. As we wrap the episode up, we would like to take this time to thank you for joining us this week on Unexpected Journey. Our guest information will be linked in the episode description, along with a link to our company website, remoteevolution.com, and our host website, annbib.com. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and share on your favorite podcast app and on our YouTube channel so that you never miss an episode and we can continue to bring them to you. Let us know your thoughts on what we discussed in the comment section. And once again, thank you for joining us. We hope to see you again next week for another episode of Unexpected Journey.